Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 227 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, starting with the owner of MTGGoldfish, Richard. How's it going this week, Richard?
Hey, Seth, what's up? We got some crazy news today, unexpected news.
It's so funny, like 2 hours ago, I was thinking, this might be kind of a slow podcast. We've already talked about most of the Modern Horizon cards, so I guess we can talk a little more about that. And then we had like 2 huge news stories come out just this morning, so plenty of topics out of the blue. But before we get into that, we also have returning from are you feeling better, Krim, from your sickness? Good to have you back.
I feel better. Yes, I feel better. Good enough to be here, and it doesn't hurt to talk. So I'm pretty excited. And the news that we got this morning, especially one specific news, has me through the roof with excitement right now. And yeah.
I am looking forward to, our conversations on these topics. I think this is going to be an interesting cast. Sometimes we are all hyped about the same thing. Sometimes we aren't. So I think this is going to be a fun one. I'm excited for this one. So our topics for today, we got 3 big ones. First off, we're going to kind of wrap up Modern Horizons. We have a few more spoilers to talk about, maybe a little bit of like full set impressions. Then we have our big news stories, which are first off, a Netflix show was announced today. There were kind of rumors, and we talked a little bit about some of these rumors before, but it is official, announced from Netflix. So we're going to talk about that. And then Wizards came out with an announcement too about the London Mulligan rule being officially adopted game-wide, starting with M20, and then Fishmail, of course, to wrap things up. So before we jump into these topics, a quick reminder that our episode today is brought to you by FlipsideGaming.com in their Richard Kane Ferguson collection playmats. You can check out new takes on classics like Decon Blackblade and Arcane Denial, and you can use the discount code Goldfish to get 10% off your purchase and to help support the show. So thank you so much to Flipside Gaming for supporting the show today. And with our sponsorship stuff out of the way, let's jump into Modern Horizon. So we have a few cards we're going to talk about, but before we get into that, the set's out. What do you guys think? Where are you at with Modern Horizons now that we see the fullness of the set?
I am very excited to play with a lot of these cards. I mean, most of them to me, like, I don't know if like ninjas is going to become a thing, but I am excited to draft ninjas. But when we talk about like constructed and all that other stuff, I am really excited to play with a lot of these. I don't know how much of it's going to actually stick, but there's a lot of EDH stuff here.
Oh boy!
Oh, no!
Yep.
Oh, Richard!
Oh boy!
Yep.
All right, hold on. Okay, I was called out last week in the comments. Someone said it's clear from Richard's comments that he hasn't played Modern in like 3 years. So
that's probably not untrue.
That is actually true. But I played like 8 leagues this weekend. Okay, I got myself stuffed by Jace the Mind Sculptor Teferi many times.
Sounds like a good
I am
weekend.
now an expert on Modern. I don't worry, I junded them out, except I just dropped the red. You don't need red anymore. But I played a lot of Modern, and now I kind of see what people are doing. So, like Krim, I think some of the, I guess, bad tribes might get a shot now, like goblins, slivers, ninjas, merfolk's getting a little upgrade. So maybe those decks kind of creep in, but I don't see anything crazy going on. And in fact, I think the most impactful card of the set will be the Force of Negation. I forgot what it's called. The Force of Negation.
Yeah, Force of Negation.
Was it actually? Yeah, Force of Negation. I think that's the most impactful card we're going to see in the set. And then we're going to get a little bolstering of some of the tier 3 decks. And then, there's going to be some broken 4-mana combo cards, but like, is that any different than any other like turn 4 combo deck? I don't know, right? So it'll be interesting to see where the control decks go with their new toys.
For me, I'm super hyped for this set just because it really fits how I like to play Modern, really. Like, as far as, are there a ton of cards that are going to be in top tier decks? There's a few. And like Richard said, some of the like lower tier tribes get better, but there is so many many cards that I'm excited to build around. There's just a ton of sweet build arounds, like Astral Drift is super cool, Ninjas is really cool, Echo of Eons with Narset is cool, the new Yawgmoth, there's like 10 different decks at least that I want to build featuring new cards. So whether or not those decks end up being like stuff that's going to win a GP, like that doesn't really matter to me. I'm just really excited for all the new possibilities, because normally when we have a set, you get like a handful of support cards for Modern and very few like actual build arounds. In this set, there's a bunch of cards that are going to make entire new archetypes. And like I said, they're probably not going to be GP winning archetypes, but fun archetypes that are going to be competitive enough for people to play. I think it's going to hit the sweet spot there.
I mean, I'm definitely going to like be trying like Winds of Abandon. So there's definitely going to be cards that are going to be seeing some play. Like, as you had mentioned, there's going to be a lot of, pet cards that I'm going to try to force, but, I'm going to seriously force so many pet cards. but like, I mean, like, what are some of the, cause I wasn't here to talk last week. So, you know, I'm curious to hear what you're excited to play in from Modern Horizons, Seth or Richard.
The most excited card for me? Guess what it is.
Goblin War Party.
No.
That was close.
I Morophone? That seems like a Richard.
No, we're not talking about Commander
okay.
here.
In Modern.
Spike Richard is back. Filthy Casual Richard was buried this weekend. Okay, he's gone, right? We're playing Collector Oof, right? The grizzly bear that just randomly hates out artifacts. I don't know why they had to do this, but I think this and Force of Negation, I'm never going to play a dirty blue deck. So Collector Oof is going to be wrecking people's faces, and we're going to restore the glory of green-based mid-range decks to Modern. And yeah. No more Hardened Scales losses. I was so infuriated. I'm like, turn 3, they're like 20 damage to your face. I'm like, what happened? What happened? So Collector Oof, stopping that.
Is really good. I think for me, the deck I'm most excited to build is Astral Drift. I really love Astral Side decks, and they're so much fun. So is it going to be a great deck? Probably not, but I'm definitely planning on playing that. Ninjas, I've been working on. I think Ninjas might be a legit like tier 2 deck. Also some Urza combo decks like Urza Paradox Engine Shenanigans or Urza Thopter Sword Shenanigans. So those are the 3 that are near the top of my list. But I also want to build like Ren and 6. I want to build or try Slivers with some of the new additions. So my list is pretty long. Also Carrion Feeder Aristocrats is also high on my list. So there's actually like really like at least 10 decks that I'm excited to try out.
Okay. All right. I mean, yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff. Obviously, Graveshifter. I'm just kidding. Graveshifter's art is funny, and that's like I may try that for the memes.
Crim's list is like Archmage's Charm Control, Force of Negation Control, a Future Sight Control.
Oh, I'm so excited for Future Sight. I'm not even kidding you. Oh, I love that card. And Kaya's Guile or Guile, just for the jokes, but mostly it's Kaya's Guile. And like, yeah, I'm really excited to try Kaya's Guile. I'm really gonna try to force Kess. I want to try to do Kess with like, you know, new Nico Bolas, you know what I mean? So like,
not another Kess deck.
Yep. Look, okay, I know, real crazy. Who would have thought I would have wanted to do that? But there are a lot of like really sweet cards that I just never got the chance to play with, and the cycling lands are pretty sweet. And you know, as Seth mentioned, Astral Drift. Oh, I also loved Astral Slide, so I have to try that and try to see if that card works. Probably won't, but, you know, like, it's nice to try. And like Winds of Abandon is something I just really am excited for.
Yeah, Winds of Abandon seems just like a pretty solid card. Like, how many of those do you think you'll play, Grim, in your like whatever Esper deck? Is it more like you play 4 pass and like one of these, or do you think it's something more than that?
Well, I would say I'm more excited for it, to try it at least, out of blue-white than I am out of an Esper deck, because an Esper deck, I've got a lot of removal. That isn't my issue. So, I guess I'm gonna have more because there's now Kaya's Guile. But like Winds of Abandon, I think will be sweet out of blue-white. And it now gives me enough, you know, decent removal that, like, cause, you know, 4 paths is solid, but, you know, sometimes that gets surgically extracted. And that gets very upsetting when you get that extracted. So I needed something else. And yeah, it's not instant, but the overload on it is also pretty sweet.
Oh, Also, I forgot about this deck. I think if you combine together Modern Horizons with the Mulligan rule that we'll talk about in the future, I think that the Helios deck is going to actually be like a legit top tier deck. I think Giver of Runes, like I played the Helios deck not that long ago and we came up with two problems basically. One is discard and you can play Leyline of Sanctity. Two is a 1 mana way to protect your 2-drop, and Giver of Runes is like perfect at that role. So I would not be surprised if we, in a few months, our tier 1 meta is like Neobran versus Cheerios versus Tron or something, and Modern is just a joy.
Versus Judd.
Yeah.
Yes, don't forget Judd. And then Krim being the blue-white player, yep.
Control. Oh, who would have thought Teferi and Jace the Mind Sculptor and Little Teferi are good?
Well, breaking the meta wide open.
All right. Let's talk about some specific cards, okay? We have a couple that came out since the last week, and I want to see what our take is on them. So speaking of efficient removal, we have basically like a Chain to the Rocks new card. On Thin Ice, white, snow enchantment aura, enchants no land you control. When On Thin Ice enters the battlefield, exile target creature and opponent controls until On Thin Ice leaves the battlefield. So Krim, you're talking about Winds of Abandon, but you didn't give Thin Ice any airtime. What do you think? This is 1 mana exile removal.
I play Blast Zone, and often I'm blowing it up for 1.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't know if I want something that also get like, hey, have something back.
I think with the exception of being a Snow Matters deck where you actively need X number of snow permanents on the battlefield, and even there it might not be good enough, I think that card's just like stone unplayable. Like Krim mentioned Blast Zone, also like Assassin's Trophy, Ghost Quarter. We haven't really seen Chain to the Rocks be a thing in Modern for quite a while now. I think Burn used to sideboard it at one point, like a few years ago, but
don't forget Red White Prison.
It's just way too risky. It's so easy to get your land blown up and give your opponent the creature back.
Yeah, the land or the enchantment.
All right.
Yeah.
Fine. No blue-white control with Thin Ices.
No, I think we're good.
All right, next up, how about some goblins? We have Pashlik Mons, 2 in a red. It's a 2/2, legendary creature, goblin warrior. When Pashlik Mons or another goblin you control dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. 3 in a red, sacrifice a goblin, create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens.
I mean, I know you'll try it in EDH, but
we're talking modern,
I know, but like that's I don't know. Is goblins like gonna be good enough yet? I don't know. Like I don't know. I mean, it's not fast enough, right? To go in the little 8-whack deck or whatever you want to call it. Like with surge, like all the surge, whatever the what's the card again? I keep forgetting.
All the bushwhackers, yeah,
Reckless
all the
bushwhackers and stuff like that.
I actually think that it's worth trying in that deck for kind of one reason. I don't think we got enough pieces to make like legacy Ether Vial goblins. Like the joke is we didn't get the best goblins in Wasteland and Port, and that is kind of what makes goblins work in Legacy. But I think that Mons actually does some interesting stuff for 8-whack because 8-whack is a deck that gets in a ton of damage over the first like 3 turns, but then it can be stopped by like a sweeper. It can fizzle by drawing too many lands, and if you throw Mons into the deck, probably not as a 4 of, especially if you play Skirk Prospector, it gives you this kind of like combo kill with playing cards that are already fine. Like just make all your random goblin tokens, get in as many attacks as you can, and then just sacrifice your board to finish out the game. So I'm definitely going to try it as like probably a 2 of maybe an 8-whack goblins, but I think we're still pieces short for making like legacy Ether Vial goblins work.
Yeah,
it's nowhere close to legacy goblins, but like the biggest problem of 8-whack is you just get wrathed, right? So this gives you wrath protection, so maybe it does something, but I am disappointed, with the full set. We're like, maybe we'll get some more goblin support, maybe they'll throw in Rashad and Ford or something, but no, we didn't get any of that, so we have to go 8-whack for goblins. Alright, here's the card I think is actually really good, but I don't know if it's actually good or not, so I'll ask you guys. Hogak Arisen Necropolis. 5 hybrid green-black, so 8. Legendary creature avatar, 8/8. You can't spend mana to cast the spell. Convoke, delve. You may cast Hogak from your graveyard. Trample.
I mean,
No, it's just one more than Gurmag Angler, except this thing is like immortal, and it has trample. This is the keyword, right? Like Gurmag Angler gets chumped for days. This thing tramples over, and you can't spend your mana to cast it. But I've seen plenty of players cast Gurmag Angler with like plenty of graveyard fodder left over.
I don't know. I mean, like, I think it's okay. I don't know what deck do you see it going in?
Hollowed one?
Okay.
Hollowed one, like some of the old school, Grixis Delver, not Grixis, like Grixis Shadow type deck, like the decks that fill the graveyard that used to play Tasigur and Gurmag Angler.
I think you gotta have Bloodgas in your deck, basically, because you can delve for 5, but you do need that convoke for 2. Like, you can't just completely delve it. So I think where I see it fitting, it could possibly show up in Dredge, as like in small numbers, because you can just dredge it in your graveyard and have like pretty easily a turn to 8/8. Like Dredge, get back to Bloodgas and tap them and exile a bunch of cards, and you have an 8/8 trample on turn 2. So I think that that's a possibility. Hollow One could work as another like Bloodgas deck. That seems like the easiest way to have the 2 black creatures. And then maybe like some janky Unburial Rites, Satyr Wayfinder, like grindy shenanigans, which I don't know if Modern is in a place where you can really grind out games with cards like that, but I think it's worth trying at least. So, I mean, an 8/8 trample on turn 2, that's gotta be something, even in Modern, right? Like, at least worth trying.
I don't know. I mean, I would just really hate to draw this card.
Comes like, I'm just gonna path it anyway. What do I care?
It's like, it's just gonna get like path or something. It's gonna feel really bad. No, like it's okay. I think it's all right. I'm not like super excited on this card in any way. I'm more excited for the little...
Gurmag Angler got disrespected when the poor little zombie fish was spoiled. I'll show you guys. I'm gonna go like Gatekeeper of Malakir.
Okay.
It's a Hogak. I'll show you all.
Okay. Yeah. Then I will believe. I will believe after that.
All right. How about Hall of Helios Generosity? Legendary land. It's a rare. You tap it to add a colorless mana, 1 and a white. Put target enchantment card from your graveyard on top of your library.
I really like this card. I don't really know where it fits in Modern, but it's obviously powerful. Like, Academy Ruins is a staple. Volrath Stronghold isn't legal in Modern, but it sometimes shows up in like legacy decks.
But you want to put it in your decks?
Yeah, you would play Volrath Stronghold. So I feel like there's enough history for this style of card being playable. I just don't know what enchantment deck, like what enchantments are you getting out of your graveyard with this? Like, that's my catch with this one, is like, I just don't know how you use it in Modern.
Red, white, present.
When they kill your aunt, the nice, you put it back.
Yeah. Or Seth, if they blow up your blood moon, you're like, haha, here it comes again.
That's true.
Yeah.
I like the sounds of that.
Course. And then you immediately turn it off after you play the blood moon. So it's great.
I mean, realistically, our best enchantment deck is Boggles, but Boggles doesn't play enough lands to like make this, like, that colorless land is gonna hurt you, so you can't really put in that kind of deck. Maybe grabbing your ley lines after they're destroyed. I don't. It seems like
casting your ley lines though still feels terrible.
Yeah, but I don't like. I think it has to be like a value card, like I don't know, like a detention sphere or something. But
maybe
I don't
Enchantress. Like maybe I don't know. We have a lot of Enchantresses in Modern. Like, maybe there's a way to try to make, like, just straight-up Enchantress work, and it would probably be really good in that shell. We have, like, Sphere of Safety, Ghostly Prison, all the, like, prison-y type enchantments. Maybe something like that?
Yeah. Okay. I mulligan my Hogak. This is my contender for the best card that we're talking about today. Unsettled Mariner. White and a blue, 2/2, creature, shapeshifter, changeling. Whenever you or a permanent you control becomes a target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 1.
Oh yeah, this card is great. I think this card will definitely get play. I don't know if it's in the main deck, but maybe in the sideboard. I do like this card though. For tribal decks, even the Seth's new Sliver deck and whatnot. This is just a sweet card to have. In any kind of like creature-based deck.
Yeah, Slivers, Merfolk. I think this should just literally say Merfolk. Like, Merfolk gets a Kira at 1 less. Azorius Merfolk is not unheard of. Like, people have played it. We have the lands for it.
I think you guys are going way too deep. Like, sure, Slivers, sure, Merfolk.
Humans.
The first thing I thought is, yeah, humans can easily play this. And then also spirits. Like, it is a spirit, and it kind of works with the Staxy disruptive theme of spirits. So those, I think, are, for me, the two top tier places where I could see this card showing up. Not that I disagree that it can show up in basically any tribal style deck because of it being a shapeshifter and being a changeling. So yeah, I think this card is actually really strong, and I would not be surprised to see people immediately. I also like Krim. I don't know if it's a main deck card right away. Like, what do you take out of humans or spirits to put this in your main deck? But it seems great as a sideboard card, at least, to bring in removal heavy matchups where, like, the problem with your deck is your opponent just 1-for-1ing you into oblivion. Seems really good in those matchups, and kind of helps against, like, Thought Seizes and other, like, combo-y things that go to your face a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
All right, Krim, close your eyes and imagine this. You're on the draw. Okay, I'm on the play and I'm humans. I go turn 1 champion of the parish, and you have drawn your celestial colonnades, so you're a little sad. Then I turn 2 Thalia, then I turn 3 unsettled mariner, and then you scoop and go home sad. Like,
am I supposed to enjoy this imagery? I love it.
It is so oppressive, right? Or imagine the opposite. Okay, I am Jund. They turn 1 champion, turn 2 unsettled. I can't even Thoughtseize for 1 mana now. It's a 2 mana Thoughtseize. It becomes a little sad, right? Or if I Liliana and I try to minus, I have to pay mana. Like, what is up with that? So this is actually quite obnoxious, and the fact that it's a human makes it a little scary. But again, it can help Merfolk. Goblins, if for some reason
just Sky Goblins. Just Sky Goblins.
But really, I think the tribes in this color would be some kind of collected company Bant deck, spirits,
Humans, yeah, like
Merfolk.
I mean, Merfolk, yeah, definitely.
I've seen Esper fairies. This fits.
Do you think
Esper fairies? I do like that. I do like that deck.
Have you seen? It's basically a fairies deck running like Teferis.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's like, come on, guys.
I used to just play Esper fairies. I added the white though, not because of Teferi, but I was just tired of losing to burn. So.
Do you think it's good enough to show up outside of tribal decks? Like if you're playing Vizier Druid combo or something, like is it enough protection that you can just play this in a random creature deck, or do you really need to be taking advantage of the changeling aspect?
I honestly think it's just infinitely better because of the changeling part of it. Like if we just played in a random creature deck, it's like isn't like, I don't know, like Thalia better or something. Just I don't see this being huge out of just a random creature deck personally, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think you're you're probably right. It probably is worse than Thalia if you're just trying to like protect and you don't care about creature types at all. But it's definitely a powerful card.
Yeah, like Spellskite or anything else, almost like.
Yeah, I wonder what you can do with this. Like, I mean, if it enables Gravecrawler, like it does everything, right? There's really weird things you can do with this card. So it'll be interesting to see if people slot it in places other than the very obvious humans. Okay, last card we want to talk about. We have a mythic. Echo of Eons, 4 blue sorcery. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into the library, then draws 7 cards. Flashback to an oblivion.
It's a time twister. Like if you're playing Faithless Looting, it's just pretty much a time twister from your graveyard. I think this card's this is another card where it's powerful. Like I'm very convinced it's powerful, but apart from janky people out with Narset, I'm not exactly sure where you put this. Like what deck does Echo of Eons fit in? It might be a card that needs like its own archetype and a new archetype to develop to really take advantage of it, but it's easy to get cards in your graveyard, and Time Twister is a powerful card, so it feels like someone's gonna figure out something to do with like a flashback Time Twister.
I mean, maybe that that sweet taking turns deck.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's cheap enough that you can potentially get up enough mana where you can flash this back and cast like a Time Warp or something in the same turn. That's only 8 mana. That's not ridiculous.
I mean, I could also just see them, definitely just doing something like that. That's like the only deck I could think of that would like, I guess, want it.
I think we've seen at various times like affinity style decks try to use, what's a bad one that ends your turn?
Days
Undoing. The problem is, like, how does a deck like affinity get this in the graveyard? If you're casting it for 6 mana, it's bad. You need to be able to get it in your graveyard for it to really be powerful. So that's kind of the weird mixture for some of the like aggro decks that might be able to take advantage of it.
Krim, any consideration for playing this the fair way? Let's say you're Jeskai control. You can Faithless Looting this, you can Narset wheel someone for fun, but you can actually make it up to 6 mana with, let's say it's a fairy on board, and you can give your opponent 7 cards. You're untapping with 2 mana, you have planeswalkers on the board, you have full control. No?
I mean, that's a lot of work, right? That's a lot of work, but the good news is that if I play this out of something like my Esper deck, I've already got a lot of exiling your graveyard, so you may not get anything back. So, I don't know what Kaya's Guile, as I said, or Nile's Spellbomb, or whatever the graveyard hate of the week I'll be playing. But is it really worth it? I have no clue. I don't know if I'm playing out of a fair deck.
But Faithless Looting, then you somehow go to 4 mana to cast Narset. You go back to 3 mana and flash.
I think if you want to play it fairly, I think I would rather see some sort of like Faithless Looting Young Pyromancer type shell. Like, I think it's at its most powerful when you can empty your hand of cheap threats, hopefully faster than your opponent can empty their hand, and then you kind of naturally break the symmetry because you're drawing like 6 cards and your opponent's only technically drawing 2 cards because they already had 5 cards in their hand. So some sort of like dump your hand and be able to take advantage of spells, like some sort of like Is It Delver with Faithless Looting or something along those lines might have a shot fairly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, you just like cast Niv Mizzet somehow.
Oh.
You echo Eons.
There it is.
There it is. I've fixed modern for you guys.
That is a 6 mana card that is triple red, or triple blue, triple red. And then also on top of that, we go Echo of Eons for 6 mana.
Yep.
I like it.
That's how you close out your games, Krim. You're sitting there at 12 mana, unable to finish the game because you have no finishers. And then you do this.
Did you say you played like 8 leagues this week? How often do you think that's going to happen?
So all my leagues ended with, turn 4, someone was dead, and then that was that. And usually a Strangleroot Geist was on the battlefield victorious.
Did you play the Strangleroot Geist?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Let me tell you, all my years in Legacy getting destroyed by Jace the Mind Sculptor has given me a leg up in this meta. I'm like, Jace the Mind Sculptor, let me show you Treetop Village and Strangleroot Geist, my friends.
Oh my gosh. Let
me show you. Little Teferi? Okay, whatever. Teferi still dies a Strangleroot Geist.
Oh man, Richard.
Okay, maybe I'm still filthy casual. Maybe it was.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know that was a card I had to worry about.
but for real, I punish control decks so hard because I don't know what they're doing, but they're playing like Dovin's Vetoes and random stuff. And I'm like, okay, whatever, guys. Strangleroot Geist, Treetop Village, you're all dead.
Wow, that is just the easiest game of Magic you've ever played.
They're like D-spheres, like, because they have 4 paths, right? You extract that, they're dead, right? So I'm like, okay, cool.
Well, speaking of fixing Modern, Wizards has attempted to fix Modern. Actually, all of Magic. Segueing into the London Mulligan rule. So we got an article today that the London Mulligan rule that was tested at Mythic Championship London, that's where the name comes from, the one where you always mulligan to 7 and put back some cards when you're done mulliganing, that is going into effect game-wide starting with Core Set 2020, so the beginning of July. So what do y'all think of this? We have seen the test of it. We have played with it a little bit. It was on Magic Online for a few weeks. What do you think? Good choice, bad choice, excited, terrified? Where are you at with London Mulligans?
Love it. I've been asking and like begging for it to come back. I think this is going to do wonders for all the non-games that you're going to have. I mean, As I said before, testing it in a format like Modern, where I mulligan to 4, playing a fair deck and still won, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, so. I think everyone liked it that played it, right? And we have fears that the older formats will be weird, but the majority of Magic is played in Standard and in Limited, so I think it's a great idea, and I would prefer that over having split mulligan rules. Like, if they're like, okay, Vintage is broken if we do this, let's just have Vintage be the old mulligan and everyone else have the new mulligan. Like, I don't like that idea. So I think this is good. It makes games, it removes the non-games, and then if your formats are kind of broken, then just fix the formats, right? Like, if combo decks are too strong in an older format, then do something about that, but encourage more interactive games. Nothing turns off a new player more than they sit down, like, let's play some Magic, and then I draw no lands, and I sit there and I die, and I'm like, this game is stupid. I'd rather have, a free mana crystal every turn like Hearthstone, right? So I am 100% for reducing non-games.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced this reduces non-games in older formats. I think it does for Standard and for Vintage, and I think that's a really good thing. But I'm still kind of the opinion, based on playing with the Mulligan rule and also watching like the Mythic Championship with the London Mulligan rule, I think it just creates a different style of non-game, where it's like, I mulligan for my combo, you mulligan for your rest in peace, and then everyone starts with 4 cards. You have, 2 dredge decks that have Leyline on the battlefield and no one does anything. Like, that's just as much a non-game as mulliganing to 5 because you have bad mana. So I'm skeptical. I'm still in the camp where I wish they had done this for Standard and Limited, but left older formats alone. Because I still am not convinced that it's a positive for older formats.
Well, where's your line for older formats? So Modern, I think the consensus was it was fine, right? Because of
I loved it.
The championship. So then we start at Legacy and Vintage.
I actually think Modern is the format where I think it's probably most detrimental. Because it's already a fast combo format. Legacy, you have Force of Wills and other answers. Modern, you don't have answers. And
Forcification.
Yeah. I think the general consensus on that from the pros is it's somewhere between maybe in the sideboard for Merfolk and Stone Unplayable. So I don't know if it's a savior that we're chalking it up to be, even though I was high on it personally. So
good thing I'm not a pro.
So I have my fingers crossed. I do like that it makes mulliganing feel better, but I am anxious about the effect this is going to have on Modern in specific.
When I think about it in Modern, I absolutely loved it. When I was playing it in London, I actually just. It felt amazing being able to the game. I know that I didn't win my matches in Modern, but that's because the land screw came from the fact that I drew no lands after the initial opening hand, right? But I was able to mulligan freely and then know that, okay, whatever, I have 3 lands and a path and a push. That's good enough to survive an early game. So I don't know. I like that. I also think that, being able to find something for a fair deck, to find something like a Rest in Peace or a Leyline to fight these unfair decks was very comforting.
So what are you guys expecting as far as bannings? That was something that came up in the article where Wizard said, we know that this is probably something that's going to have to happen. No, we don't have a list of cards that we're considering banning. Is there anything that you think with this mulligan rule is likely going to get banned in the near future?
I mean, depending on how consistent it gets the Neoform deck, something's got to go out of there.
Yeah. I think that would be near the top of the list. I also think Tron is probably on the watch list. It had the highest metagame percentage at the Mythic Championship, and it does benefit a lot from the mulligan rule compared to most decks. So I think that the Neo brand deck is probably very high on the list. Although, Modern has so many turn 2 combo decks, or decks that can combo on turn 2, and even more thanks to Modern Horizons. Infect is going to be insane. You're going to be able to consistently mulligan into turn 2 Infect kill. Can you really just start banning decks that do that? How many decks do you have to ban if you're going to try to keep people from killing each other on turn 2?
I mean, Infect also still, I get that you can definitely mulligan easily, to let's just say, Glistener Elf land and ridiculous pump spells, right? but like that, you're still going down on cards. Mulliganing still hurts. And on top of that, I think there is going to be more fair decks running around even after this.
Interesting. I hope you're right. Like, I mean, maybe I'm unnecessarily worried about it, and maybe it won't be that big of a deal, but we'll see. I'm definitely nervous, although I do think it'll be a lot of fun for standard and for limited.
Yeah, I mean, as someone that plays Esper mid, like the amount of times I mulligan in that deck is absurd. It like just has a really, really janky mana base.
I do think it's a little silly that you can have 2 ban lists in standard, but you can't have a different mulligan rule for vintage. Like, oh, another mulligan rule in vintage, that's going to confuse everyone. But having 2 different ban lists in standard, apparently that's not confusing. So that argument is a little bit weird to me.
It's okay. There's not many people playing Legacy or Vintage anymore.
But wouldn't that mean?
I'm pretty sure that's part of the reasoning, though. I'm pretty sure WotC's just prioritizing standard and limited over even modern, I would say. So to make those formats better and maybe the other formats slightly worse, I think is a fair trade-off.
Playing, like, what's the harm in having a different mulligan rule? Like, who are you confusing if no one's playing anyway? Like,
you're confusing the guy that updates the BNR and stuff on the website.
Well, we have another topic, and then we have Fish Bail, and this is a super exciting topic. So we mentioned a few weeks ago the possibility of a Netflix Magic show based on some documents that were like filed, some trademark stuff. Well, today, big announcement. It is happening. Netflix and Magic making an animated show, and not only are they making an animated show, they have super legit people making this show. So the executive producers are Joe and Anthony Russo, who directed Avengers Endgame.
How do you know
was
they're
that movie good?
Yeah,
was that movie good? I don't even like that.
This is MCU. Are you gonna skip this too, Seth?
I have never seen Avengers Endgame, but I assume if you directed like one of the most hyped movies of the year, you must be like a legit director. So even though I've never seen their movie, also the animation studio is the studio that has done like Rick and Morty, Teen Titans Go, Puss in Boots, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the writers are Henry Gilroy, who did Star Wars Rebels, and Joe Molina, who did The Tick and Agent Carter. So I don't know these people.
Clone Wars.
Oh, really?
Rebels.
Huh, the article I think said Rebels.
I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he did.
He did both.
Did you do both? Yeah. I only know him for Clone Wars. Because that's technically the only canon.
So you all know these people, right? Like, these are legit, like, top-tier writers and producers and studios, right?
I mean, I liked Clone Wars and all of that. Like, I'm excited to see what they do with Magic, though. Like, it's specifically the fact that they're writing Magic that it is an interesting topic. I don't know. I mean, how do they write it? What are they following? I mean, I hope it's Bolas or Teferi or Jace, but obviously, surprise. I wanted that to be the main character, but I don't think they're going to follow just those. So maybe they do like the reason why I think they chose the Russo brothers is because the Russo brothers have already shown they're good with an ensemble of like a cast, right? Like a bunch of characters coming together. With that being said, that's why I think it's awesome to have the Russos like kind of like oversee all this stuff. And you know, like Avengers Infinity War, the character had the best hero's journey was Thanos. And that was the main villain, right? So that's why I think it'd be pretty cool if they did something that followed Bolas and it portrays him in a light that makes him look like he's obviously a bad guy, but you know, like
that would be far too complex for a Magic story. I'm looking forward to like Magic story has always been so simple and so, dare I say, boring. Like if not for the card game, you're like, this story in general is pretty bad. So that complexity that you're talking about, making kind of the main supervillain, you know, basically a supervillain, be human, right? And, you know, have a journey and have flaws and things like that. I think that would be amazing for Magic. I hope they can do it. Because so far we just had like, haha, I'm a bad guy, let me destroy everything. Oh no, I was defeated, and that's like our story arc, right? So seeing this all-star cast, right? Like there was so much name dropping in this article, right? Like,
I mean, Yeah.
It's huge, right? Like, we didn't just get a cheesy, low budget, Netflix special or series. Seems like they brought out the big guns, right? All the big names. It seems like there's a big push behind this, and hopefully it'll be very good. It can still suck, but hopefully not, right? Like, it seems like the budget is here and they're really serious about making this work.
Yeah, I mean, and like Bardell, as you said, did do some sweet series. And I love Netflix's The Dragon Prince. I feel like that's a show that not enough people talk about, but the names that they have attached to this are absurd. The Russo brothers, like, are you kidding me? Like, that is awesome. But I mean, that's because
they took all that Mythic Edition money and they're like, here.
That is A-okay with me right now, because this is what I've been waiting for. This is the news I'm the most excited about. This is absolutely just, yes, I want so much of this.
I'm actually just like kind of shocked at how legitimate it all seems, because we're kind of used to like the last Magic novel. Like, there was a lot of like, does this person like speak English type reviews and like big criticism. So to go from like, I don't know, like random writer who doesn't really have any cred or anything to literally getting some of like the hottest directors and well-known writers in Hollywood, that is a pretty big deal. Like, regardless of how it turns out, Wizards is definitely it reminds me in some ways of the Mythic Invitational, where we turn on the coverage and we're like, wow, like, sure, it doesn't all come off flawlessly, but you can tell that Wizards really put their money behind this and the effort behind it. And I feel kind of the same about this. Like, who knows how well the show will turn out? I hope it's awesome. But regardless, like, Wizards is really going for it with this show just based on the names attached.
Oh, yeah. And like, the one thing I have to wonder about this is because like these wonderful writers they got on it, are they I think this is where we start seeing a little bit like how the Marvel movies affected the Marvel comics. I think there's a chance the show kind of gives birth to new Planeswalkers, and these writers, they'll let them write a new Planeswalker maybe into the story, which will then eventually show up into the card game.
Yeah, it'll be.
I think I'm excited. Oh, yeah. I'm excited to see what a writer like really wonderful writers come up with when it comes to the Planeswalker.
Like, didn't Dak Vaden come from a comic book? Or am I remembering that wrong?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna lie to you, I read those comic books, man. The promos were sick, though. The promos were sweet. I love those promos. But greatest thief in the multiverse, yes. But I want to see what they do. Like, I could only imagine what the kind of Planeswalker maybe they'd come up with, and of course, maybe how they'd finally get Teferi and back into the right light with the media. Like they'll make him feel like the actual hero of Dominaria. And I'm just excited to see oh my gosh, like this show, like I am.
What would happen if on the first episode the fairy dies?
The show sucks. Somebody who do they even? Why do they hire these people? What are their credentials?
Teferi is probably more of a villain than Nicole Bolas at this point. At least if you read like the Arena subreddit. It does say.
I mean, Blue would just be eroded out of this entire storyline if it were up to the Arena, just Magic Reddit.
It does say, we don't have a ton of information, but it'll be an all new storyline. So they're not just going to be retelling a story that we already have, and it will be based around Planeswalkers. So that's kind of what we know. Also, larger than any one world can hold. So assuming there's going to be some like planeswalking, different worlds, different planes type of thing. So, pretty exciting. I don't think we have a time frame. We haven't really heard when this would be coming out yet, or has that
2020? That's all we know. So far.
Next year sometime.
Which is my biggest issue with this. It is taking too long. I already wanted it now. Like,
I mean, that sounds pretty fast. I'm impressed. I don't know the speed at which they do these things, but that seems kind of reasonable, because my biggest fear is they drag their feet and then no one plays Magic anymore and then they release it. Right? So Magic is kind of like at a really high peak now with Arena and everything, so kind of cashing in on that and releasing the Netflix series ASAP would be pretty cool. And you guys are gushing over Planeswalkers, but I just want to see Phyrexians, Eldrazi, slivers, just like these random creatures that we've come to know and love, but we've never seen them. Like they have no, like, you know, they're not featured usually, right? They're kind of like the backdrop. They're kind of like the foot soldiers in Power Rangers, right? Like you don't really get anything. So now we're gonna get to see them animated and full of life, killing Teferis and whatnot. So it'll be sweet.
I don't know.
No.
It might just be like a Planeswalker romantic comedy.
Oh,
It's
yes.
like Friends, but it happens on the plane of Ravnica.
Yes.
Oh, yes. That is a good show. That is a show I like, you know, whew. That is what I thought of when I thought of Magic the Gathering, the TV show. Like, I can tell you that with, like, I don't know, this series is going to do a lot. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was borderline about to cancel Netflix because I like watch nothing on there. They got rid of the Marvel shows. And then this happened. Like, okay, all right. I'll sub for like another 2 years. I'll see what's going on.
Or you can
I'll see what's going on.
Wait 16 months.
So,
Yeah, I guess that's true. But then I have to do it all, and I don't want to do that. So, like, I'll just wait. But now I have a reason to stay, and I am really excited to see what this new storyline. That is the part that gets me jumping with joy. It's an all new storyline, and I don't know. That's the coolest thing. For the first time, I guess we won't know, right? Because there's no like story that's already out there. I mean, I hope not. I mean, maybe they pull parts from certain like timelines, certain things, but no one knows what it's really about yet.
So before we get to fish mail, which we got to get to, one more question about the TV show. So do you think this show how much do you think it'll do to grow the Magic brand outside of current Magic players? Like, obviously, Krim, you and me, Richard, we're going to turn on the Magic show because we're Magic players. Do you think this is something that's going to kind of grow the game outside of our clan and reach a wider audience? Or is this more like to get Magic players to watch Netflix?
Did Pokemon, like, I got into Pokemon from the TV show, right? As a kid growing up, I like the younger generation of people now will like that are obviously like going to be growing up looking for a new TV show. They see something that looks cool. Like, you've already seen how Magic art looks, the design of Magic cards. They look really cool. Like if I'm a young kid, I'm looking into that and I'm looking at this artwork. The characters, they seem like somebody I would use my imagination and pretend I am and run around and be like, right? So because of that, I think, yeah, like if the show is good enough, it will pull in people. Like, I mean, personally, I think it will.
Well, the article seems to suggest this is adult-themed animation, so it's not meant for little kids in the same way Pokemon is.
Yeah, but I mean, I watched, come on now. I watched South Park as a child, right? Like, okay.
Yeah, but I think this is kind of like, I don't think they're trying to get more people to play the game directly. I think this is them trying to expand their franchise outside of the game. So in the same way, I don't know how many millions of people watched all the Marvel movies but did not read a single Marvel comic ever. I think you're going to have their goal, I guess, is to have a lot of people watch and enjoy Magic the Gathering without actually knowing the rules of the card game. Same with Pokemon, right? Like, so many people watch Pokemon, they play Pokemon Go or whatever, but how many people have actually played, like, the main series, right? Or how many people have played the card game? Like, it not necessarily do you have to partake in every part of that game, but there are people that just watch the TV show and only the TV show, or they only watch the summer movie and that's it. So I think for Magic, that's what's going to happen. Like, I don't think they're going to try to sneakily teach us the rules of the games in commercial breaks or things like that. I think it's just going to be, here is adult-themed fantasy in this cool universe with planeswalkers and planes and creatures and things like that. And if you want, you can play the card game, but not necessary.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think like this is for the card game, but I definitely think it's just to grow Magic as a brand. But I think there will be more players.
Yeah.
Because think about the new people that will watch just whatever the Russo brothers do.
Yep.
You have the people that just watch because the writers that are on here. If it's a good enough story, well, there's also a card game. There's also the D&D line of, like, you know, Ravnica stuff, right? Like this I'm going to want to get into it, right? Like more and more and more and more and whatnot.
Yeah, and also
Maybe
bring back
until I see
returning
the
players.
price of like a Scalding Tarn or something like that.
yeah, don't show them that. But
Yeah,
people
we don't
will
show 'em
see
that.
people will see the Netflix series and they're like, I remember Magic from 1995. This game still exists. Like what? And then they'll get back into it. So it's another way to kind of get kind of the kids that played Magic in the early days to come back as well.
All right. Well, let's move on from the excitement of TV shows and Mulligan rules and answer some fish mail before we run out of time today. So, Richard, take it away with some fish mail.
All right, if you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air. So first question, Mono Green Stompy. Hey Richard, with MTG Salvation shutting down, any chance we can get a forum added to the MTG Goldfish website? Did you guys know about this? I just googled this right now. Apparently MTG Salvation is shutting down in July.
Yeah.
I saw it a
tweet.
few days ago.
That's a little sad. That's like a little piece of Magic history and where we get weird rumors coming from. And
Thankfully, they are going to keep the site up, they said, in archive mode, so all the old stuff won't be lost forever. But yeah, it is. But I think really, like, honestly, I used to use MTG Salvation like 10 years ago, and then Reddit kind of came around, and I feel like Reddit just kind of killed it, and that became like the primary forum for Magic players.
yeah, like
Reddit
Reddit
seems to be the main forum for everything now.
Reddit,
Yeah, like whatever
Discord,
the
and
thing is.
Twitch chat, I think collectively have kind of replaced our old school internet forums. Like, that's not really a thing anymore. So maybe it's just how the times are going. But it is a little sad. Like, you know, years from now, you're going to have people digging up, you know, top 10 posts from MTG Salvation. Kind of like we have, like, the dojo, you know, research things that people pull out from the past. Like, so it's a little sad. But I don't know about forums. I don't know if people still use them. JC Foxbox. Any chance we could see a commander clash where you all use Morpholon as a commander, but each run a different secret tribe?
Yes, it's happening.
Yes, and they will be secret, so we don't metagame each other. What if we all show up with slivers, huh? Wink, wink. Wink,
Oh,
wink,
boy.
wink.
Oh, not that again.
Desi Nohei. Now that Modern Horizon spoiler is out, I am utterly frustrated that WotC chose to exclude Counterspell. If their goal is to make fair/control decks viable, new to the degenerate turn 2 combo decks, why leave out interactive spells? Krim, what does the exclusion of Counterspell mean for control?
It hurts me, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not on R&D, so there's many reasons why I'm not R&D. But I feel like Counterspell's a fair Magic card, and I think it could totally be in Modern. The fact that maybe it's not here now, I mean, maybe it comes like if Modern Horizons does well enough, and which I assume it will, Modern Horizons 2 or maybe like some kind of modern eccentric set could see a reprint of it. I think right now maybe the reasoning is we're waiting to see how the format shakes out after, you know, the new Mulligan rule, all this other stuff. Then we'll start adding even more cards to the
All
pool.
right,
right?
choose one. If you only had one in Modern, Force of Negation or Counterspell.
Counterspell.
Which one would you take? Counterspell?
Counterspell. You don't even have to ask me about that. I would 100% take Counterspell. Maybe that shows you the power, but a negate, right? Like a negate isn't a 4 of. If you made it a 1 mana negate, okay, maybe we can discuss, but like, I don't know, like,
I don't know. I see all these people main decking Dovin's Veto for some reason. So,
but it's not like 4 up, right? It's like 2.
Two,
right? It's
yeah.
like a 2 up.
yeah.
And I mean, Counterspell would definitely be a 4 of, and I get that, and that could be kind of annoying to play against, but I think a fair deck in Modern having a 2 mana essential, just what could be like a removal spell, isn't the actual worst.
Yep. All right, MTG Warden. With Modern Horizons, it feels like Modern is turning into Legacy Light. This is great for people who like Legacy, but there are plenty who love Modern the way it was. What is your opinion on this, on what Wizards is doing to Modern?
Oh, I don't think Modern's anywhere close to Legacy at this point. I actually think that my opinion is Wizards kind of went out of their way to make sure that Modern isn't too much like Legacy. Like, we didn't really get any Legacy reprints. We didn't get Counterspell, Force of Will, Wasteland, any of the cards, even like lesser cards like Baleful Strike. So we definitely got a lot of callbacks to old cards, but I think that Modern Horizons kind of goes out of its way to keep Modern distinct from Legacy, for better or worse.
I don't play enough the older formats, so I got Wasteland in once and I stopped playing anything past Modern.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Jace, I don't know. I think the powerful Planeswalkers are what's making it feel a little Legacy-like, at least from a fair player perspective. But I don't, the power of Legacy is each card is so efficient, and I don't know, there's just a lot more mental gymnastics you need to play. So even though the cards look powerful in Modern, it's still pretty straightforward what you have to do, in my opinion. Like, usually you can play 1 or 2 cards every turn, and then that's it. Whereas in Legacy, like, every turn, every move you make is like a crazy option. At least it was like 4 years ago when I played Legacy. So I don't feel that Modern is at that place, but it does feel the same way when you just get Jaced out of the game. So I don't know. But I do think if you get Wasteland, I think Wasteland is going to be one of the turning points. A Wasteland and a Brainstorm type, like a really efficient way to make your hand consistent. I think that's when you start crossing into Legacy Light. Or maybe you straight up Legacy at that point, I don't know. Man, Sears Legros, Modern Horizons would be too much for new players, but do you feel Magic is needlessly dumbed down? Shouldn't pay 2x for games that isn't smashing 2/2s together. Kids are not stupid. We started with Time Spiral and Lorwyn blocks at 14, and we're not brain surgeons.
I mean, I think that it seems clear to me that Wizards is taking steps to try to make the game more friendly to new players. I think a lot of those steps are probably good things. I think in general, a lot of the changes, like legend rule changes and stuff, have been positives. I don't agree with all of them, but I think in general, making the game more accessible is probably good.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say it's being dumb. Like, War of the Spark was really complicated. So complicated that I could barely play it, right? It's like, how many times do you run into some random Planeswalker static ability that, you know, gets your card countered without you realizing? Or how many times have you played Farseek in your mono green decks, right? Like, I don't know. There are many of got-yous that happen in Magic. So making it easier, I think, is fine. Like, I think when people get introduced to Magic, which they want, to be in Standard and to be in Limited, it should be relatively simple. And then we have core sets to help out with that. But by the time you get to Modern and by the time you get to Legacy and Vintage, like, it's super complicated. And I don't know, you need to step back and think as a new player. Like, have you ever tried to pick up a new card game? And then there's just like 18 pages of rules, and you're like, I don't have time to read 18 pages. Right? I want to be able to get in and start playing immediately, or I'll just go play this other game. Right? So I think it's important that it's easy for new players to get in and start playing, but then there's enough depth that they can keep learning, and the game becomes an onion that you keep peeling apart. But too complicated off the bat just makes people turn away and do something else. It's like trying to play MOBAs or League of Legends or StarCraft or something, right? Like, you need to know so much information up front that most people are like, forget it, I'm just going to go play the shooter, I'm going to go play Fortnite or something. It's so much easier than studying through pages and pages just to figure out how to do a basic build and get anywhere.
I think the one time it kind of felt like that to me was the best of one justification, where they said pretty much like sideboarding is too hard. That I kind of thought like, I don't know about that, but it seems like they've kind of backed away from their overwhelming support of best of one based on like MPL and stuff like that. So maybe that's kind of turned out fine in the end anyway.
Yeah, well, they tested it out and they're like, we don't like it. And then they undid it.
Yeah.
Last question. A little cheeky. Do you guys think the London Mulligan rule will lead to a shift in open deck lists at paper/online tournaments? I worry that knowing what your opponent is playing will greatly incentivize such knowledge thanks to the new Mulligan rule.
I don't think we know about open deck lists yet, right? Do we have confirmation that that's actually a thing going forward?
I don't know if we got confirmation on that either, but
yeah.
I think it's fine. I mean, makes it so you actually have a real game.
So we had both of these going on at the last Mythic Championship, and some people seem to hint that the open deck list was a greater impact than the London Mulligan rule itself, and we did that for coverage reasons. So I don't know, but it certainly makes life easier as the fair deck, right? Like, do you keep your removal, or do you keep your disruption, or do you need pressure? And you can mulligan accordingly without even knowing what your opponent is doing, because you can see their deck list, right? Or you know that they only run for Path to Exile, so you extract that, and then the game is done, right? So I think, I don't know, it makes it easier, but I like playing the guessing game, where you're like, oh, should I name Meddling Mage on Supreme Verdict or Wrath of God? Like, what should I do? But now you have a deck list, right? So you're like, oh, mathematically it's this, right? So, but I don't know. I don't think it's too big of a deal either way, though. It just changes it slightly.
Yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the open deck list part, but I'm not super concerned about it, because at this point it's not like there's been an announcement that that's like the new rule moving forward or anything. So if we get to that point, then I guess we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. For me, I just mostly dislike that it does like make it harder to play unique decks or rogue decks, like, because the main reason to play a rogue deck is because you can catch people by surprise. So I think it might like take some of the diversity out of the meta, because if you have open deck lists all the time. So that would be my concern, but I think it does improve coverage, and in a world of esports, coverage is important, so it might be a worthy trade-off.
I'm just pretty much in agreement with like Seth on the last bit there. In a world of esports and stuff, it's great for coverage, so that's why I think it's fine. And plus, I mean, I no longer get to do the thing where if my opponent goes turn 1 Tron land, I concede and go to game 2 and just go right to sideboarding and have them not know what I'm playing.
Oh.
I lose that.
Yes.
I lose that. And I did that a lot. I'm not kidding. It doesn't matter what, like, whatever it was, like it was a Magic Fest, like at a GP. Doesn't matter. Round 13, I'll concede. Let's go to game 2.
That's hilarious. I mean, I do that, but it's more of the shame keep. I'm like, I don't want the thought sees me. I'm like, I don't want you to see what I've kept. I'll just scoop and go to the next game.
Oh yeah, see, that is not me. Wow, this person really kept a one lander. Okay, cool. One lander, a bunch of 4-drops. All right, let's go.
You never know. I could just draw 3 lands in a row. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
With the new scribe rule, it's more likely, right? It's fine.
You're right.
All right, that's all our fish mail for this week. Thank you to everyone who sent them in. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your question.
Anyway, I think that brings us to the end of episode 227 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So, Richard Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to FlipsideGaming.com for supporting the show. And yeah, we'll be back next week to talk about whatever's going on in the world of Magic. So until then, have a wonderful week. And this is the crew signing out.